To be or not to be. That is the free streaming service. Whether be nobler in the mind to suffer through the slings of commercials and the arrows of outrageously low-quality transfers, or to overpay for Prime against a sea of lesser content. Tubi originals on this episode of Attack of the Killer Podcast.
Attention planet Earth and beyond. Stay tuned for Attack of the Killer Podcast. 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 Yay.
What?
Alas, poor Netflix. I knew it well. Shudder, a fellow of infinite jest. And scene.
Dude, best one yet.
Oh, thanks.
That's awesome.
I need to do more Shakespeare, I know. Welcome to another episode of Master Killer Podcast Theater. I am your host, Insane Mike, and this is our 319th show.
Whoa.
We're going to be talking about the streaming service Tubi. They have been joining the club of all the other streaming services and creating their own content of recent. Their stuff isn't like Stranger Things or The Boys or even Joe Bob's Last Drive-In. With Tubi Originals, you get stuff like Titanic 666 or the Terror Train remake. So we'll be discussing some of these Tubi Originals, but first, if this is your first time listening to the show, Attack of the Killer Podcast is a horror movie podcast where a group of friends, we get together with a topic and discuss films within that topic. Now, we're all just friends hanging out, chilling, talking horror movies, so there's probably going to be spoilers. Now, if you like our show, I ask you to donate to our Patreon. Please. Pretty
begging.
please. I am begging. Do you want me to beg? Well, I'd rather reward you with all kinds of perks and bonuses than begging. So when you donate to our Patreon, you become part of the Attack of the Killer Podcast family that we call the Attackers. Now, as an Attacker, you get access to so many perks and extra content. Everything from bonus episodes, exclusive YouTube content, and even getting to pick films for our Patreon Picks episodes. There's like shout-outs that you can get on the show, much like all of these super awesome, amazing attackers right here, right now.
Timothy Lenner, Roman Doppelfeld, Larry Watanabe, Brett J. Royer, Seth Key, Jessica Irish, Chris Cook, Brian Godsell, Stephen Sitter, Brandy Moore, Andrew Mahler, Rod Hutchinson, Carmen DeHague, Abraham Ariano, Andrew Bentler, Casey Kelderman, Tony Miller, Mike Clayton, Rose Talashoma, Abe Kirshner, Lisa Cavalier, Holly Berg, Bill Fisher, Emily Randolph, and Greg Dedrick.
You, too, can be on that list. It's better than those other lists you're probably on. Just go to jointheattackers.com. Pick the tier that suits you to get the content you deserve. That site, again, is jointheattackers.com. And speaking of being on the list, it is now time to introduce you to the podcast crew. He never thought Netflix would ever successfully produce its own content. Then again, stranger things have happened. Brian.
Hi.
He heard there was a really cool documentary about the clitoris on Tubi, but he couldn't find it. Jason.
Hello.
He just watched that new movie on Shudder about Dom DeLuise teaming up with a serial killer. It's called Dom and Dahmer. Tad, everybody.
Hey, Tubi Tad here.
Yes, Tubi Tad.
Tubi
His
Tad.
new name, everybody. Be sure to tell him that in the comments. Anyway, speaking of Tubi Tad, it's time for What We Watched.
We're sort of hitting the end of the summer blockbuster season, but we've gotten like 3 solid weekends of big movies, so I'm curious if anybody has seen them. Mike, what have you watched?
I have seen one of them because I just this past weekend saw Deadpool and Wolverine. Anyone else seen it yet?
I wish.
No,
Is that good?
This weekend.
this
Okay.
weekend.
So it's really good and really funny. Moving on. Trying to stay spoiler free, guys. Moving
Appreciate
on.
it.
I just watched a movie that came out last year. I wish I would have saw last year. I saw it on, well, Tubi. It's a horror comedy called Hanky Panky. Anybody familiar with this one?
Nope.
Okay, are you guys ready for this?
Oh, God.
Here we go.
Nope.
So it's about this guy whose best friend is his napkin, which is a sentient being from another world that will talk to him and has orgasms when it cleans up messes. And they have to fight a killer hat that eats off the top of people's heads. And the hat is voiced by Seth Green. Boom, drop the mic.
Sounds great.
Yes, it's awesome. It's hilarious. It's definitely extremely low budget. I took some issues with the audio quality because there's some moments there where it's really kind of roomy, audio, and moments in the film where you can't really hear what's going on. But it's a pretty talented cast of nobodies that definitely deserve to have careers, because I thought everybody in this film was top notch, really funny. There's some great funny gags. The stuff with the napkin is hilarious every single time. And there's like about a 5-minute, not even exaggerating on the time, at least a 5-minute fight scene between the napkin and a hat. It's so great. And then the last thing I'll bring up is I've been showing my son to expand his cinema knowledge, the films of Quentin Tarantino. And we've been watching all in a row. So we've gotten from Reservoir Dogs, we've gotten all the way through Death Proof. So we're ready to go on to the last half. And he's loved every single one of them so far, except for maybe Death Proof. He's just loving them. He's just digging them. And so, like, the other night, I'm like, we're going to take a pause on the Quentin Tarantino stuff just slightly so I can show you this one particular film, not directed by Tarantino, but written by him, and he even acts in it. And so I asked him, like, Simon, have you ever heard or know anything about the movie From Dusk Till Dawn? He's like, no, I have no idea what it is. I'm like, perfect. Dude, guys, I'm telling you.
The turn got him?
That turn, his eyes were like popped out of his head. His jaw was on the floor, and he was frozen in that position for like 5 minutes. He could not believe what he was seeing. It was so awesome. I never got to experience that because being a Fangoria kid, that was all spoiled by the time I ever got to see the movie. Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty awesome that movie still has the ability to do that to people, though.
Yeah, and God, he just loved it because of the turn. Oh, man. I mean, he was really digging it up to that point.
Because it's good up to that point.
It's really good up to that point, especially Clooney. Like, Clooney, it's like, to me, it's still my favorite thing Clooney has ever done. Still, because he's such a badass in that movie. But that turn, he was just having such a good time. And then, because it just doesn't even stop. Like, it never lets up for a minute once the vampire stuff happens. Oops, spoilers.
Ooh.
Anyway.
So what's it going to be? Are
Sorry,
you going to be
Godsell.
a faithless preacher? Or are you going to be a mean motherfucking servant of God?
Though his reply, a mean servant of God. He won't say it.
Yep, you guys know, yeah.
It's so good.
It's so weird to see him in that role too, because he's
Oh, yeah.
playing the opposite of what he normally plays. Which
has
is
Harvey Keitel ever played a meek person before?
Right.
Or since?
Right?
But I feel like it's interesting because there's still moments in that movie, even though he's a meek, pastor who's lost his faith and everything. There's still moments where he still controls the situation, even though Clooney thinks he's in control. I really, he just still has this Keitel presence of him that feels like he's still kind of pulling the strings in the situation.
It's like dad mode. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kid
cool.
his son is the absolute worst part of the movie. He still sucks.
Oh.
I don't think he did anything after that movie for good reason, but doesn't ruin it. But
He doesn't, but
It's just weird casting when you have like all this other great stunt casting in the movie,
Right.
Juliette Lewis, Harvey Keitel, George Clooney, but then some of the side characters in the bar, like Tom Savini and Fred Williamson.
Sex Machine.
Yep.
and if Andy was here, he'd be doing hot pussy, cold pussy.
Yeah, I was pointing that out to Simon too. all 3 performances of Cheech in the movie.
Yep. Fantastic. I that was a staple in like middle school when the parents went to sleep. Me and my friends at sleepovers had that on VHS, threw that in. I mean, that is just a fun like slumber party movie with your friends.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, how great. He got to do it. He got to experience it
Got to
the right way.
Experience it the right. Oh yeah, man.
What are you gonna do? True Romance or Natural Born Killers or?
I definitely want to show him those 2. I think we'll get back on the directed bandwagon for a while because I really want to. I can't wait to rewatch Hateful Eight. So I kind of want to get back to those.
You gonna do theatrical or Netflix cut?
Oh man, what do I do?
Tad's been lobbying for the Netflix cut since it came out.
I still don't even.
And I
Maybe
haven't
I
done
should
that
because
either.
I still
I
haven't
still
seen
haven't
it
watched
either.
that either.
It's easier to digest because it's an 8-part miniseries, which is cool.
I'd still want to sit and watch the whole thing in one go, though.
Yeah, same. I don't know. Maybe I'll let him decide.
Well, I probably personally would have made them sit through the Grindhouse double feature.
Yeah, no.
To me, that's the
With a
best way to
single
see.
film.
Yeah, I kind
Death
of
Proof,
regret
yeah.
not doing it that way, but we kind of already started Death Proof late, and so it's like there's no way I'm gonna survive.
Did you watch
all of
the
that.
director's cut of Death Proof?
I'm not sure which one we watched. Probably
Because like
not.
the standalone DVD, I think is the director's cut.
Weird. I can't remember who has it streaming, and that's where we watched it. And even as it started, and I feel like he's not gonna get all the subtext of this and the connection and what all of this is supposed to be representing without the full scale. So I asked him, like, do you want us to start over with the first and watch this whole thing as it was intended? He's like, no, it's fine. So, I feel like Death Proof is better if you have the full experience.
Yeah, when your film's
part of a
all homage, then if you don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, because I'll even admit Death Proof is a bit of a slog compared to his other stuff.
I mean, the car wreck alone, though, is fucking great, right?
Once you get to that stuff, it's great, but it's like there's so
all
much
the talking leading up to it, yeah.
And I'm not even complaining that it's all talky because Tarantino writes good
It's Kurt
dialogue.
Russell, It's just
And it's
not
Kurt
worth
Russell.
watching. So
No,
it's-
stop.
Oh, what? I'm just kidding.
It's just you spend that much time with the first 3 girls for it to mean nothing. That's the real problem I have with it.
Like Psycho.
No, not like Psycho, because
Exactly like Psycho.
Psycho did that flip good. From Dusk Till Dawn did that flip good. I'll give him credit for that, but he did
Scream.
not do the flip good in this time. Even Scream. But
Scream for its first 4 minutes.
I know.
yeah,
Did you do Reservoir Dogs yet?
yeah, that was we're going
Okay,
completely
cool.
in chronological order,
Okay,
and that's still
cool,
his
cool.
favorite out of everything we've seen so far.
Really?
Which I'm shocked because he's such a fan of sword fighting and anime and all that
Yeah.
culture. So I
think
thought
Kill
Kill
Bill
Bill
1
would
would be-
trump it. I mean, he still loved it, and he was just in awe of all of those homages. But yeah, he still really likes Reservoir Dogs. He's my kid. That's still my favorite.
What do you think of Jackie Brown?
He really liked it too. I was kind of worried about that one, especially going into that being the third one after Reservoir
Right.
Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
But no, he still really dug it, and it had been a while since I've seen it too, so I was really enthralled. And again, like not knowing what Tarantino was homaging in that film, that it's really calling back to those 70s blaxploitation films. And I know he has no context for that whatsoever, but he still really dug it, and he realizes that Pam Grier is amazing.
Well, at least he got the important
Hell yeah.
lesson out of that one.
Exactly. Anyway, so
So is that what you watched?
that's what I watched.
All right, Jason, how about you?
I finally watched one. I got one movie since the last time we recorded. Love Lies Bleeding. Written directed by Rose Glass.
yes.
Dude, why didn't you tell me this was good? I'm just kidding. I know
Shut
you
up.
did. Yeah, Kristen Stewart, amazing. Katie O'Brien, amazing. Ed Harris, what the fuck, you crazy skeleton.
a bug-eaten skullet wearing son of a bitch.
I know. Dave Franco, want to punch him in the face, always did. And Jenna Malone didn't even know it was her half the fucking movie. It was awesome. It was great. It was a wonderful ride, and I don't know how much A24 stuff Tiffany had seen before this one, but let's just say she wasn't prepared for the ending of this, where it went a little surreal.
Yeah.
Just her eyes got so big. What the fuck is happening? I'm like, so it's it's symbolism. It was anyway. Just watching her process
A movie completely set in
reality,
and completely grounded,
100% grounded, and they just took a little artistic turn right at the end. For just a minute, it went back to realistic.
Yep.
But just to drive that. Oh man, it was so great. I was just watching her freak out was great too. But yeah, man, Love Lies Bleeding. It's so good. It's on streaming on Max, is where I think it is. But anyway, that's what I watched. It was awesome.
All right, Brian, what have you watched?
I too also as well watched Love Lies Bleeding.
Yes!
I didn't love it as much as you guys did. I did really like it.
Sure.
This is not negativity by any stretch. I just feel like there was no addressing and a lot of romanticizing, I felt like, but the two main characters are obviously, especially the weightlifter, horrifically mentally ill.
Yep.
Because it
Very
wasn't
toxic,
just
yeah.
anger and needing to take revenge, but it treated the whole thing like, oh, they're fine now, they're together. And it's like, no, they need to be medicated. Like, if it had only focused on the people who deserved it, I would have no problem with it, really. But the obvious, yes, the toxicity of their relationship and the fact that several completely undeserving people were just either beaten senseless or murdered, and no one really cared. I don't know. I just felt
that part's not good.
And in the same vein of, I loved it with a few reservations. We got out to the theater and saw Longlegs.
Woohoo!
I actually didn't know Nicolas Cage was in it ahead of time. So that was an interesting surprise.
Trying to make that a secret.
Okay. Well, it worked for me in any case. But yeah, like it's I like the procedural stuff, I think, and the investigation better than the last act. Once everything is revealed,
Yes,
there were a couple of pretty big gaps of, but why is this happening again?
Yeah.
But again, none of it was enough to stop me from liking it. But go ahead. What?
No, I was just gonna say I really, really liked it. I wish they would have kept it grounded.
No, that's not my problem with it. I was fine with it going where it went. I just needed some more depth given to why it went where it went. Why is this going on? Give a motive for this. Now, there are some things in the background that you can put together and suggest, okay, the motive is because it was for fame on Longlegs' part, right? Like, there's all these rock and roll posters and stuff, and he's always singing, and so perhaps this is a bid for
a Charles Manson type thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. I could put it together enough in my head from the context clues to say, okay, I think I understand what Oz Perkins is trying to do here. And it didn't make, because a lot of times you'll watch a movie and go, why the fuck? And then you'll see later online, like, oh, well, if you read the tie-in comic book that explains this passage from the novelization, like, it's not like that. It's just, and I appreciate the fact that the movie didn't feel like it needed to hold the audience's hand and to think you'd pick up enough things from the production design, from background scenes, from comments in passing. But I just felt like there needed to be a little more depth for it to have really earned that turn. But, fantastic performances, very creepy. Definitely recommend checking that one out.
Yeah, sort of cool. There's a clip going around online. They Micah Monroe is the lead. You didn't mention that. That's enough to watch it. But there's a scene. It's not a spoiler. The first and only the first scene she is in with Nicolas Cage. She had not seen him at all.
In the makeup,
And nothing. Yeah, had not met him. Had never spoken to him. Did not know table reads. No anything. And her heart was beating so loud they had to reshoot it because her mic picked it up.
wow.
And so there's a clip of her, like, you can hear her heart rate increase. It's like doom doom doom. It's going crazy, and they're like they had to go reshoot it.
Wow.
They use that in the marketing, which is pretty smart. But
Yeah,
she was talking. I saw her talking about it on like Seth Meyers or something, and she was just like, she grew up on horror movies. She loves horror movies, but like, she just said she in that moment was just terrified.
Yeah.
And when you watch the movie, you'll understand. But
Mike,
what else did you watch?
Mike, this is one Mike would like if you haven't seen this already. Houseboat Horror. It's a late '80s Australian shot-on-video slasher movie.
Oh.
It kind of looks like it was made for PBS because of the NTSC PAL difference in the video quality. So it has that weird, but like the acting is way better than most American shot-on-video for $5 slasher movies. Yeah. And there's some really fantastic gore in it.
Oh,
that's on Shudder. I didn't realize it was shot on. Yeah, I didn't realize it was shot on video when I started it, and I almost like, oh, this maybe I'm like not quite what I was in the mood for. I'm like, fuck it, I'll give it a chance, and I was glad I did. That was a lot. It's a fun little. I mean, it's not gonna change your perception of slasher movies or anything. It's just another one of those, but it's a lot of fun.
Sweet. What was it called again?
Tape. Houseboat Horror.
Houseboat Horror.
Yeah. The Stone Tape, which was a BBC TV movie written by Nigel Neal, who did all the Quatermass stuff. That's also on Shudder, by the way. That is, I mean, I love Nigel Neal. The dude can do no wrong. Like, I just love his grumpy, supernatural, explained by science but still weird. So the idea behind this one is this electronics company is trying to beat the Japanese in advancing technology to come up with a new form of storage to make, basically they're trying to create thumb drives in 1970 whatever. So they move into this new estate, the estate is very old, but it's new for them. So they move into this new research facility. It's this old estate house, and it's so old that the foundation stones have been there since Saxon times. Like this, the original building was several thousand years old, and it just kept getting built over and built over as the old ones went down. And so the stones in the basement are so old that they hold the psychic energy of people who have died there, and possibly some eldritch elder god type entities that existed before humanity. And so they realize, like, oh, these stones are the storage that we've been looking for, and they're trying to commodify it, and things go about as well as you would expect. But so that is just fantastic. If you're looking for great 70s horror sci-fi stuff, can't go wrong there. And then lastly, I will cover a Chinese Torture Chamber Story 2. This is from the new Vinegar Syndrome set. They released both Chinese Torture Chamber stories in a set. I think this one's better than the first one. So the idea behind the story is this guy is on his way to the capital city to become a government official because he's this upstanding, they're straight-laced, always by the book, do everything legally guy, and he's gets waylaid by some bandits on the road who are really, they don't want to be bandits, they're just farmers who have been forced out because of the emperor's shitty economic decisions. And so he's like, I believe you're good people, I really don't think you're bandits, so I'm going to give you a chance. So they go to the house of the bandits. They party all night. They drink all night. He says, come find me in 6 months or whatever in the Imperial City when I've been set up in my high station, and I will welcome you into the government, and I will, I'll lift you up with me, essentially. So some time passes. They go to the Imperial City, and everything's real hunky-dory at first, and he sets them up in the palace, and he gives them these cushy government jobs, and they think they're living on top of the world. And then they come to find out they've basically befriended the Han Dynasty version of Homelander.
Oh, shit.
As only Category 3 can give it to you. It's real nasty, but awesome. So highly recommend that one as well. Tad, what have you watched?
No, I'm glad you asked. I've watched quite a bit. I finally made my pilgrimage to the Last Picture House, Beckenwood's newish theater
awesome.
in
Lucky.
Davenport. It is
What did you think
so
of the cup
fucking
holders?
nice. I did not sit in an actual theater. I was up on the
You were
rooftop.
on the roof, right?
Oh, okay.
So what they have
Godsel's
for
gonna be
cup
very
holders?
Disappointed. I don't know. Godsell just is constantly raving about their cup holders, and I like it spooky. So
Yep.
No, I peeked into the theaters, but I did not get to see a movie inside. We saw Wet Hot American Summer on the rooftop. The rooftop is fantastic. It has the like fake turf and these like wooden Arabac or what, I don't know what they call them, like the lounge chairs that you kick back and your feet are up. And it was just a perfect night for it, and really nice sound and picture and good food. And they have all these really cool props from their movies and other movies all through the lobby, and these cool old posters. Just a really nice, awesome theater to have in the area. And it was a great night with good food. And that was fun.
Awesome.
I too saw Long Legs. Really, really liked it. A few things I didn't love, but it really kept me engaged. It's one I will be purchasing on physical media, so I must have liked it quite a bit. I thought it was extra creepy. The one complaint I have is that when the movie started, we went on like a Monday night. The movie starts, the lights go down, no one else in the theater. Fantastic. 9 couples within like the first 10 minutes came in while the movie was starting. I'm like, not the trailers or the anything, the pre-show, anything. It was after the movie started. I'm like, you should almost just like do the old Hitchcock. Once the movie starts, the doors are locked. You can't come in. Sorry, because you're interrupting everyone else who paid.
Yep.
But luckily, the movie was like, it creeped all these people out so much that no one made a sound.
Good.
that's
Once
awesome.
they sat down.
It's nice when a movie can shut people down.
Right.
I've had that happen a few times, and it's always a fun experience, especially if you kind of know what's coming and you can just watch them
Right.
be like horrified.
Yeah, the only other time I can really think where 2 times that movie really did that were Hereditary, because I saw kids coming in, and I was like, someone brought their fucking kids. This is going to be awful. And they did. I don't even know if they took a breath. They were mortified. And then these 2 teenage girls sat behind us during The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I think that movie changed them. What else did I watch? I watched.
Was the first time I saw Cannibal Holocaust in the theater.
Oh shit! You saw that in the theater? Where did they play that?
A couple of times, Minneapolis.
Okay. Yeah, that would be an experience. Saw the new 4K remaster of The Terminator at the Capitol on Art House Theater Day. Very cool. I love that movie. And as I get older, I tend to really, and after repeat watches, really like The Terminator better than Terminator 2. Or, a lot of people claim T2 is better. I think Terminator 1's this shit.
I think Terminator 2 is super overrated. The original is way better.
And
wait a minute, though. How is one of the biggest action movies of that year Art House?
Because it was an independent film at the time.
That's true.
I suppose.
Very small budget. They did like a 40-minute Q&A with Gail Ann Hurd and James Cameron after the movie. It was pre-recorded at Vidiots in L.A., which is like an old, mom and pop video store that's still alive in L.A. And they spent most of their time talking about working with Roger Corman and how it led to this movie, because they both worked for Roger Corman. Just really cool to hear them gush over him and give him so much love, and how that led to like them having this script and how can we do everything with such a small budget. And that's everything they learned from Corman, they applied to the Terminator and made it happen. That was really cool. And then Nikki and I rewatched my only Amazon Prime Day purchase was Problem Child on Blu-ray. I have seen it not too long ago, but she hadn't seen it since maybe the 90s. And she was pretty taken back by some of the things she forgot were in that movie, the things he says and does to nuns. And Michael Richards was such a physical, awesome comedian back then, comedic actor, UHF and Seinfeld and Problem Child and Airheads. And too bad he turned out to be a racist monster. And then the final thing I watched last night was I saw the TV Glow. Has anyone else seen it yet?
Not yet.
Looking
It's on my
forward to
list.
it though.
I did not know what to going in what this was really all about. I saw the trailer. It looked right up my alley. It's an A24 horror movie with neon colors and weird shoegaze music. Count me in. I watched it and I was like, I know what is physically happening on the screen, but I have no idea what the fuck I'm watching. Like, I'm like, is this, I don't understand this narrative. Like, I'm like, I can see with my eyes what they're doing and my brain's processing it, but I'm like, how is this a movie? It's kids watching a TV show and talking about it. And then it has some pretty awesome scenes, some very awesome visuals. I mean, the one that's on the poster and the one that they shown in the trailers of like a ice cream machine or ice cream truck, like smoking with like purple smoke with a neon glow behind it. And then it sort of ended and me and Nikki looked at each other and I'm like, I am too stupid for this movie. So I did what Brian was talking about earlier, where you have to like Google it and be like, what are they talking about? And my white male cis brain could not comprehend that this movie is actually like about this main character being trans and what he's going through in his mind as growing up being a male, but wanting, feeling like a female. And I was like, oh, my brain was just too stupid to understand and get that. So I'd be interested to rewatch it with that point of view. Yeah. But it was really well acted. The music is beautifully, like visually beautiful, but it went way over my head, and that's because of my privilege. So, I guess one of the times I should have maybe looked into it a little bit before watching it, so I'd catch that. But recommend it. Yeah, it was good.
Well, thanks
that's
for
what I
the
watched.
heads up on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did the research for us, because now I'll have that in my mind when I'm watching it. So I'll hopefully be able to have a little better luck parsing that out from what I'm watching.
All right, thank you, Tubi Tad. So, time to get into our films. Brian, what do we have first?
First up, we have 2003's Where the Devil Roams.
When the road is mean, blood will thicken. The devil's pulse begins to quicken, while the body rots to dust and bones. There's a tear in the heart where the devil roams. Magic. Give it back. Looks like the devil's got a new dance partner. I'm grateful.
Are we late for dinner?
I'm so proud of you. Careful. I took his magic and made my own pact.
We gotta keep moving.
Somebody cut off more than you can sew.
Oh, hit it again. We're just rotten thieves.
daughter did this to me. I can fix it. While the body rots to dust and bones, there's a tear in the heart where the devil roams.
So this one is about a family, mom Maggie, dad Seven, and daughter Eve, who sometime after World War I and during the Great Depression work at a carnival sideshow that travels around the country. And they have a sort of artsy-fartsy soft shoe act where the daughter sings and the parents do this weird little interpretive dance thing, which is exactly the kind of bullshit that nobody would have put up with paying for during the Great Depression. They would have been beaten to death at the first podunk Bible Belt town they stopped in for being pretentious. The dad has PTSD because he was a surgeon in World War I and, I don't know, saw some shit because it was World War I. At one point, you can see a helicopter flying by in the background in one of the scenes that they just didn't bother to digitally erase. So that's a bit of an anachronism. Anyway, one of the other guys at the carnival, really the only person who's at all successful, is this guy who can chop body parts off on stage and seemingly not suffer any long-term damage from it. Well, Eve finds out that this is because he has the devil's heart in a box that somehow gives him the power to not have that problem where when you graft parts onto a body it rejects them, like, you know, organ rejection kind of thing. So she steals it from him, and they go around the country killing people and stealing money and food to survive and putting on this show where now her parents can chop parts of themselves off while she sings her little ditties. And then they're just okay, except it starts to rot them because they're not using it right. Yeah. This movie is like watching... It's like Marilyn Manson liner notes, the motion picture.
Nice.
It's
Hot Topic, the movie.
Yeah.
Yes, because it does something like the
Hot Topic, the clearance rack, the movie.
it's a period piece that because this is made by the same family who made Hellbender, and the band in Hellbender, like with her singing and her mom playing, like that's actually their band. They have albums and stuff, and they're not bad. But it doesn't fit because this is supposed to be taking place in like the late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And now that can be done. But I'm pretty sure the only movie that ever successfully pulled off a modern music soundtrack in a period piece movie was A Knight's Tale. Because A Knight's Tale is fucking awesome. And they also weave it in diegetically into the movie in some places. This just does it because it's their band and they wanted to put that in there. And there's all this, like, there's one guy who actually kind of looks like young Marilyn Manson, but, you know, there's all these, like, pierced out, like, real goth looking, which, again, totally cool with that. Doesn't fit the time period. Make up your mind what you're doing, movie. And then it just spins its fucking wheels because the story doesn't go anywhere, and it's just all about look at this visual we came up with, and okay, well, yeah, you framed the shot nicely and everything, but why do I care? And the answer is I don't. How about you?
It's a no from me, dog. This was tough to get through for me. And I was, as pulling back the curtain a little bit, when Brian first gave us the heads up about this movie, and I found out it was from the family that did Hellbender, I really liked them on Joe Bob and liked their movie, and was like, fuck yeah. And then watched it, and I was like, they can't all be winners. Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it's like, is this like just a 90-minute Evanescence music video? What is this? I just, it's like the worst part of thing. It just didn't work, and some of the performances were just unwatchable. I really just they had it felt like it could have been a sort of fun, low budget short movie, but they made it a feature, and then
the idea behind it is really interesting.
Right.
The whole
Yeah.
the heart giving them this ability, like. But yeah, and again, even more negative points against it for squandering a good idea.
Yeah.
So you guys saw Hellbender?
Yeah, I actually saw it well before it was on Joe Bob, and I didn't like it that much the first time I watched it. But then seeing them talking about it in the interview bits with Joe Bob kind of brought me around to it a little bit. It's like, oh, this family's really cool, and I appreciate what they do and how they're doing it. It's neat that they're out there, making their art. And then I saw more of their art, and I kind of wish they'd stop.
Do they star also in Hellbender?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That could be part of the problem too.
Well, their performances really aren't the bad ones, though. I guess the mom isn't great.
You're telling me
the daughter Zelda, she's pretty good, but
you're telling me it's their band. They're starring in it.
Yeah,
They wrote
I mean,
it.
the fault
They
is fully
directed
at
it.
their doorstep. Absolutely, but there's some other.
It also kind of comes off
secondary
as a little
performances that blow.
pretentious too.
A little.
Yeah.
That's one of my takeaways before I even realized that they not only directed it but starred in it, and it was their band and all that jazz. So now it even reeks more of that.
Well, I think if you would have a different, not different, but it might slightly change your viewpoint if you saw them on Joe Bob, because it's not even necessarily like them tooting their own horns. It's just like they're like indie directors that are just doing everything themselves. It's like,
and I get that, and I can
we save money?
appreciate
Well, we'll
that.
just star in it, and we'll do,
Yeah, and there's a lot of times where it can work, but it didn't feel like it did this time. It felt like it was a little bit look at me kind of, and the music is the modern music is so it just takes you so out of it. Not that I was super invested anyway. It's because to me it's like too abstract to be an entertaining narrative, but way too scripted to be a provocative like art house film. So the results is that it's just kind of too slow to be shocking or scary or any of it. So, which is a bummer, because I think maybe I might be even a little harder on this than it needs to be, just because, probably the same thing that Brian's saying, because there's good ideas there. The Devil's Heart thing is cool, but for me, I love the circus sideshow stuff, and like during the Great Depression, that this traveling family of sideshow performers, that really interests me. It really, when it started out, and you're seeing this like, so low budget quality of circus performers, these like horribly handwritten signs and backdrops, which are bed sheets and stuff like that. It just instantly reminded me, and it's in black and white, so instantly reminded me of like John Waters' Multiple Maniacs. Just this murderous sideshow performers. But yeah, did not keep me interested the way Multiple Maniacs does.
It was quite a roller coaster ride for me, because like I agree with what everybody's saying. I fucking hated it so early on. I'm just like, I don't get you. You're dumb. And then, but then it like grew on me. Because I kept watching. I like the music.
Stockholm syndrome,
yeah.
Jason.
It might be. I'm like, no, I'm gonna give it a chance, and I like found myself really enjoying some scenes, And again, I liked the music. I kind of really liked the music. It was my favorite part, and like even her acting got better. I thought maybe that's the Stockholm syndrome.
Which the
main
mom?
lady, mom.
Okay, yeah.
Well, for her to not say a word in the whole thing, I'm like, ugh. I wished, but her performance wasn't a performance for someone who didn't have any lines in the whole movie. She just looked over there, and then she looked over there, and then she sang some songs, but that's not part of the movie. I mean, I don't know. I tried. I mean, I really didn't like it in the beginning, and then I felt like it grew on me, and I kind of was into it. But yeah, I agree with what you're all saying. It's, as a whole, not so good.
There are a few scenes of interest here and there, especially like a lot of the kill scenes.
Yeah.
But, and again, cool ideas. And the music's good. It just is not fitting in this film.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, what a sweet relief. I got this music now.
Okay, I could see that. But especially when you're a low-budget film and you're trying to pull off a period piece when there are helicopters in the skies and you're seeing modern conveniences in the background.
I never once thought they were trying to pull it off. It felt like
they
an art
intentionally
piece.
were just
No, it just felt like this is just the style. It's not meant to actually be the old times. This is just the style we're doing.
The dad's flashbacks very explicitly set it in the old times.
Yeah.
Though, unless they're also immortal somehow.
Yeah.
Devil's Heart could be.
Well, but they didn't have that initially. They stole it from that other guy.
Oh, damn. Never mind. Okay.
Did you guys see that Joe Lynch gave it 4 stars?
I did.
I will never trust another thing he says.
Come on, don't say that.
I love Joe Lynch, but I read, every time I put a movie on Letterboxd, Joe Lynch has got something to say. So,
it's so refreshing to see films made by truly unique voices, not striving to be more than what their parameters are, yet their ambition transcends any limitations and creates true art.
What's the next
That's
movie?
his first. Yep. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's see it out of this one. This movie's not good.
Oh, they'll get better, right? Okay, Tad, what's our next one?
Our next movie is Eradication.
A pandemic has been officially declared as the as-yet unknown virus sweeps the nation.
It's hard to be so far away from you, but right now we don't have a choice. We need you to stay isolated. You'll need to keep a strict daily schedule. Check yourself every day for symptoms. The virus you're infected with has killed every other person who's come into contact with it. Everyone except you. It could be the key to saving us all.
I love you.
I love you too. One last thing, David. Never, ever go out after dark.
Did he bite you or touch you in any way?
No. They're killing everybody who's infected.
What do you want from us?
Ravaged by a pandemic, society has collapsed. David Baldwin, an asymptomatic carrier of the disease, is kept isolated and understudy in a remote mountain wilderness for 2 years. His only contact is via video link with his wife Sam, an epidemiologist studying his blood in search of a cure. But David starts to suspect something is wrong with the story he's been told, and Sam may be in danger. So, this movie was what, 2022? Pretty recent, yeah. And you can tell it's very. It sort of took me back 4 years, but I really like this one. I thought it was pretty tense. I thought it kept my interest throughout. I was wondering what's going on. Spoilers that You're at first you just think he's asymptomatic there, and she's talking to him every time. He has all these timers all around the house to remember to do certain things. He's drawing blood. He thinks they're studying him. But again, like it says, he starts to get curious, and that scene where he like leaves the house for the first time, and you see that sick person, and he's out in the water, and he does the stereotypical horror movie thing where he's running and slipping and tripping, and you're like, God damn it. She told you not to leave, and especially don't go out at night, and you do it, and now you're in trouble, bro. And then, we find out that things are not as they seem. But like I said, I thought this one was actually really good. Would you call it a zombie movie, a pandemic movie, a 28 Days Later virus movie? Vampire movie? What do you call it?
None of the above. It's a remake of Last Man on Earth.
Dun dun dun.
If Vincent Price had Zoom.
Right.
And a lot less charisma.
I'm with you. I liked it. So there. No, like I was totally in with the dude. I'm like, yeah, man, what's going on? I thought it was shot well, very well. It looked really cool. One character basically. Well, I mean, right in the beginning, I'm like, don't you be a fucking all on Zoom movie. And then it was like, oh, thank God they're going outside. But I was into the story for most of it until I wasn't. And then I really didn't care because I think once I met her, I just didn't like her anymore.
Like in person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once we met her in person, I'm like, this story can just go fuck itself. I didn't, it just got convoluted. I don't know. It just didn't do it. I didn't like it.
So you didn't like that? You didn't like the twist? You just didn't like her?
No, the twist. It's just that she brought it, so and then I didn't like the end with her either. Like, if you're gonna, I'll not spoil it, but like, if you're gonna do that anyway, then why'd you let that happen, you dumbass?
Yeah.
So that kind of made me mad too, but
I feel like I was a little confused on some of the rules there towards the end.
That too.
Like either they weren't following them well enough, or I missed something, or I don't know. I mean, I like this one too. I feel like there are some pieces of the puzzle that's missing for me to really, really like this film. But it has a lot of elements that I do like. The isolation, the minimalist characters, the very little locations. It is very reminiscent of Last Man on Earth, which also makes me like it. Because I love those moments that of just his mundane life and how it's so organized to the minute, with all these egg timers, and how he can't stray from any of it. From when it's time to eat, when it's time to chop wood, when it's time to, Skype with his wife. And I think maybe part of the problem for me is when that flip happened, I was then anticipating it going a certain way, and it didn't go in that way, which I shouldn't ever fault a film for that.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it did go just kind of left me a little head scratchy, I guess. This also kind of reminded me a little bit with just how we never really see much of we don't see anything of what society is falling apart. It's just
because they couldn't afford it.
Well, yeah. And
so do we even know it's really happening?
And I had that thought at one point too. It's like, oh, this is all fake. He's
just one experiment in a normal world.
That's exactly what I thought it was.
That was half the movie thinking that.
Yeah. Which I'm okay with it not going in that direction. I'm not saying when I didn't like the flip that is what I, was what I was expecting. When the flip happened, I'm like, oh, they're going to go in this route. And then it still kind of wasn't totally. But it also reminded me the fact that we only really see, we see spoilers too of the infected, so to speak, that it also kind of reminded me of The Battery a little bit. And just that, okay, we don't have any money, but we want to do something apocalyptic, something zombie-like. So we're just going to, only show you maybe one or two at tops.
Well, that to me is like knowing your limits and using it, unlike the first movie.
True.
Despite what...
no, he's not wrong. I agree with that.
Despite what Joe Lynch had to say. Knowing this is the money I have and this is the story I want to tell. And to me, I like that. I've seen a million infected people. I don't need it. I like that. It less is more when you're doing a small budget. So, and it made it way more impactful when he finally does leave the fucking house and that thing comes after him. It was pretty tense.
Yeah, you get so much more tension in a scene with one infected person than most zombie movies that have like hundreds of infected people chasing after the protagonist. But I think, Tad, that should be our new part of the show is, what did Joe Lynch say?
No. I think Brett and Tony, Tony used to tweet at him during the show.
Yeah, they talk about it.
And several times
their best friend Joe Lynch.
Yeah, and he'd reply back quite often during the episode. Good guy. Bad taste.
Not all bad taste. He likes a lot of good stuff for good reason.
Well, I'm dying to know what Brian thought.
No, this was the last of the movies I watched, and it kind of pulled me out of a death spiral a little bit.
Oh.
This one I didn't mind. This is actually pretty good. I kind of thought it was cool that it was a stealth remake of Last Man on Earth, that you didn't realize that was happening until about halfway through it. Mm-hmm. And even then, when he meets that first infected guy, you're just like, okay, it's a zombie, whatever. And then a little later on, somebody starts steaming in sunlight. And I was like, wait, they're doing what now? I thought this was just another stupid zombie movie. Okay, I'm interested. And yeah, like Mike said, it gets a little kind of wrapped around itself maybe a few too many times and tripped over its own dick toward the end, story-wise. But visually, it's really good. Like, they made such incredible use of... I assume this was shot probably Pacific Northwest, I would guess, by the
woods.
Forest looked. Yeah, like it's just the scenery was beautiful. I love the way, like you were saying, they kept to their budget, maybe only showed one or two infected people. But like the way they did, it was little subtle things. They didn't have to go like full Jerry Dandridge on it or anything, but just like you'd see the eyes reflecting light weird, like if you see a coyote on the road at night. And that sort of chittering teeth clacking noise they made. I thought that was fantastic. So yeah, it's not a great movie. Am I going to watch it again? Probably not. But I was starting to have kind of a little existential crisis about this episode. I got to be honest. Like, after watching the first two movies, like it was making me kind of confront my mortality a little bit. And that I was thinking, like, I have a finite number of years left and a finite number of movies I will be able to watch.
Yeah.
And I just wasted two of them on two of the most infuriatingly pointless pieces of shit I can remember watching in the last 10 years at least.
That's when you fold laundry.
These other two movies were so bad it made me physically angry that I had wasted my time watching them.
I mean, come on. We gave you Frankenstein Conquers the World last episode.
I know it's sour grapes, but god damn it, these other two movies suck.
Spoilers
this
for
one
kind
of like so yeah, watching this one I was like, okay, I feel a little better. And I was like, because I was expecting kind of another nothing burger, I was like, okay, this last one, I have some other stuff to do. So I had my laptop in my lap. It's like, I'm going to put this on and I'm going to kind of, and then as it like started drawing my attention up to the screen, it was like, okay, well, that's a good sign. And so, I was shopping for Godzilla toys and watching this at the same time.
That's why you liked it, because you were busy looking at Godzilla
no,
toys.
this one actually was okay. It kind of pulled me out of that spiral of doom and misery.
Thought that I think almost every other episode, yes.
Well, that's what I started feeling. It's like, oh, is this what Jason has been going through for like the last year?
Oh, yes.
You guys. When did you guys stop liking movies? Okay. All right. So, Jason, what's our next movie?
Up next, we've got a film from 2023, and it's called Black Mold.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star,
Sometimes in life you get dealt a hand you don't know how to play. Sometimes someone gets an idea in their brain. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. An idea on its own can be more than enough to make it real.
It's okay to cry, little star.
While exploring a decrepit and abandoned facility, an auspicious photographer faces off against her traumatic past. Written and directed by friend of the show, John Pata.
Woo!
So, knowing that, there was a little grain of salt going in. But honestly, it's had the best cinematography of all three films tonight, I thought. I thought it was beautiful. I was into it.
Did you see another name in the credits? That's a friend of the show?
I did. I was going to say I really enjoyed the hair and makeup.
But, yeah.
Oh, did you?
Jill Six.
Okay,
yeah. Well, they do stuff. They help each other on all their stuff,
on all
too.
their stuff,
yeah. So this movie made me mad at first because I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Who the fuck are you? And what are you doing? You're just some dudes taking pictures. And that's what they were. They were just dudes taking pictures.
It's a thing.
People, I was say, go on YouTube. People do it. Abandoned buildings.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Go where they don't belong.
Regina has written several books about...
Who's that?
Okay.
I don't know who you're talking about.
That's fine. I thought maybe you would.
Nope. And that's why I was like, what the fuck's going on for the first 20 minutes? Because I don't have that reference. And they didn't tell me that reference until much later.
Yeah.
Which is what would be one critique if I got to do a draft of the script. But I liked what happened and unfolded. It got, I don't know, it just was long.
Get to where we're going.
To get to where it was going. It just took a while to get there. I'll be honest, I didn't put together the crazy old guy at first, which was great to kind of figure that out. And then, when Supernatural's in there, I just don't, I have a hard time with it because there's just, you can just do what you want. And
it takes away logic, yeah.
And
there's no more rules.
Well, then, so if we're just doing what we want, then why? So that's too bad. I mean, so if you broke it down like your scarecrow things, those guys were creepy and all the creepy stuff was great. And again, it was fucking beautiful. And Mike and I have had a similar location before, but to have this location to make a movie in, fuck yeah, John probably was just loving it. It had to be so much fun.
It was such a great location.
To have this place, it looked so good.
I mean, the building itself is a character in this movie.
I thought Girl did fine, and I liked the guy, but I hated his dialogue he was given because it didn't feel natural. That's just me. He didn't talk like people talk.
Yeah, that was probably part of it, but there was definitely a point where I'm just like, die already. He was driving me nuts.
Well, yeah, it's like, how many fucking stupid mistakes can you guys make in a row? And then when the sister comes to pick him up and he's like, I didn't see your car. All this is suspicious. Fuck it. I'm following you. Like, just fucking leave, guys.
Yeah. So, yeah. But
I liked it.
Yeah, I think it was my favorite of the three, but I mean, I did like it. I couldn't. I swear I'd seen it already, and I thought he'd put it out already. Like, this Tubi thing seems like something he'd done, recently. Like he'd self-released it for a while. I don't know. It just
could be, yeah.
But then I do follow all his stuff that he's doing, so it could have just been there, and I didn't pay attention that hard the whole time. But it's John, and I support him, and he's awesome. So I don't have anything really bad to say. Unlike the rest of these guys. I'm just kidding.
I sort of, like, I think just from Jill posting about it over the last year, played at Panic Fest. I was like, they have good taste. The guys at Panic Fest, it's, probably be fun to watch. And I still had fun with it. It absolutely felt like a movie you'd see at Panic Fest or Halloween Palooza, or... it's not, wasn't huge, but it had some really cool parts. Spoiler, they sort of hint at the old man being a werewolf in the movie earlier when he's like, is he like a werewolf or something? Then turns out he's a fucking werewolf. And those, the pumpkin scarecrow things were cool, even if they sort of just came out of nowhere. But yeah, the location, it felt like maybe the location sort of held them back a little bit, where it's like, this is what we have. How can we get them to stay here long enough to make a feature movie? Well, what if they argue about a homeless guy for 40 minutes? Because they're just bitching in the other room. Like, why do you trust him? It's going to sound crazy, but he reminds me of my dad because he called me the name that my dad used to call me. Well, he's a homeless psychopath that tried to kill us. But he said the name, so maybe it's my dad. And no, maybe he's a werewolf. No, man. Like, stop arguing and fucking leave or don't. Like, don't go make friends with a scary homeless guy. Anyways.
But am I wrong, right? When they try to leave, they can't. They start to leave, but then they just end up back in there? Or did I, miss something?
It wasn't as simple I as them just, packing up and leaving, but...
I know what you're saying, but, the building and everything kind of reminded me of Grave Encounters, which I really, really like. Mm-hmm. And I thought the movie was kind of going in that direction where, especially in part 2 of Grave Encounters, where they straight up leave, they get all the way back to their hotel room. It's the next day, they're getting ready to go home. They get in the elevator, they get off the elevator, and they realize they're still in the mental institution. And maybe if John leaned more into that, I don't know. It's not a bad movie. Yeah, it's definitely shot really well. There's some definitely cool moments. Yeah, I like the looks of the scarecrows as well. I'm totally lost with the ending. I had to watch it twice because I still can't tell you the ending because that's how just kind of impactful it was for me. I don't remember it, and I've watched it twice, but there's still a lot of good in there. Love you, John.
Well, I wish you guys would have told me ahead of time that this was made by a friend of yours.
Oh, no, that's why we didn't.
No one's going to listen this far into the episode.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, they're big-time movie makers. They're not going to listen to our little podcast.
So I went into this thinking it was going to be kind of a Session 9 type of thing, which it kind of was.
Kind of.
And... the setup I was cool with. I liked the idea. And up until the point where they see the homeless guy and he's just sitting in the chair and then he gets up and comes after him, and that happens so fast. that was like, oh shit, okay, that's pretty tense. And they get locked in the room on the other side of the door. But then, like you said, they just kind of get bogged down in this argument. So right up into the argument behind the locked door, I was with it, and then it got all maudlin with the daddy issues shit. And I did so maybe I read this completely differently than the rest of you. All the supernatural stuff wasn't real. It was just hallucinations because shitty old building they're in is full of black mold. Yeah, so he isn't really a werewolf, and there aren't really scarecrow monsters. And
right.
So this is a PSA for Bleach.
Yep.
And that's where it is kind of cool because it's an unreliable narrative where you think it's all supernatural, but
I find that's okay. I like a good you're just hallucinating because everything is terrible kind of movie. But like I said, where it really hung me up was just the whole thing with the homeless guy reminding of her dad, and it just got so schmaltzy. And that's where it kind of lost me. So yeah, the setup right up to the point where he chased him into the room and they barricaded themselves in, I was on board, and then downhill from there. But
yeah, I mean, definitely a really cool concept of, is it supernatural or is it just they're delusional from what they've been inhaling this whole time? And the big clue there, right, is just, and I love this stuff in movies, just how it's all taking place in one night or whatever, but you're just seeing them deteriorate. Their eyes are getting sunk in, and yeah, I thought that stuff was cool too.
Yep, that's it. I thought I had maybe something else.
Okay,
Black mold.
Black mold. It's as bad as they say.
The mold, not the movie.
Yes. Love you, John.
Love you, John. Okay, so that's it for the films. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish off the show with our last two segments. First, you're going to hear a promo for our podcast network, the Prescribed Films Podcast Network. The PFPN is home to so many amazing shows, such as Cinnamon, the movie podcast. I can still never say the name.
Yep.
Cinnamon. They break down all kinds of films, discuss entertainment news, and they even have their very own top 5 segments each week. Their show drops every Monday night at 9 p.m., so check out the Cinnamon movie podcast and all the other great shows at thepfpn.com. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to the show, and now it's time to hear from you guys, the listeners. Here's Jason with shout-outs.
It's time for shout-outs! 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 Shout-outs!
All right, we asked, what are your favorite Tubi original movies? And everyone said, what?
Huh?
They do. I'll be honest, I didn't even know they did it until we posted this. I didn't even know they were in the game. And I'm not sure anyone else did either. Up first, we got Hot Rod Hutchinson says, you should encourage Tad to keep eating gummies and picking random topics. Thanks, Rod. That's helpful. Tim Lennerer says, was Slaughterhouse a Tubi original or just a movie that didn't play theaters that is now on Tubi? I just watched that one for Huber Sween, and it was a low-key delight. Ted said neither. Saw it in theaters. So, also not helpful. Brian Godzilla, attacker Brian. Godzilla says, I'm a lazy ass. Do you happen to have a list for us to pick from? Well, Brian, if you were able to type that much, I know you know what Google is. So Tad was very helpful, gave you a list, And Rod and everyone else on the internet said that did not help. I think these are the first 3 Tubi originals that were ever watched. Maybe.
That's not true. I've watched Terror Train 2.
Me too, yeah.
Titanic 666.
I have not watched Titanic 666 yet. Yeah.
I went to the page of originals.
I'm gonna watch it now. Like, we could have been watching a satanic Titanic movie, and
that's a way better name.
Yeah, Satanic Titanic.
Yeah, let's look at these titles here. We got Continental Split, and it's a picture of the St. Louis Arch. My Husband Hired a Hitman.
Isn't there one called Sharks on the Moon or Moon Sharks or something like that that the Asylum made for Tubi?
They make it for Tubi? Like Sci-Fi Channel wouldn't even take it?
Yeah.
There's one called Blind Waters with a shark.
I told you guys a couple months ago that new Soska Sisters movie is a Tubi original.
Oh,
no. Festival of the Living Dead.
I will double not watch it now.
Yep.
Yeah,
they had one good movie in them, and I've already seen it. So
yeah, sadly, yeah.
Shark Bait. We got Earthquake Underground. DC
that's
Down.
where they usually happen.
Eradication. Oh, anyway. So yeah, so these 3 you should watch them, guys. We recommend it. But we did have a voice.
I think they know that's a lie because they just listened this far through the episode.
In case they just fast forwarded an hour into the show.
You just want to fast forward to the
for those of you
to the show for
those of you who only listen to shout-outs,
which
definitely go watch the 3 movies we covered.
Yeah, definitely. And here is the best voicemail to date. The bar is risen.
Welcome, everybody, to the new takeover of shout-outs called Bath Time Fun with Rod and Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Rod.
How's your bath?
Unfortunately, I have a kidney stone, so I can't get in a bubble bath. That's what the doctor told me, but I'll wash your back for you, Rod.
Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Today, we would like to talk about the subject. Well, I guess you can't really talk about the Tubi subject because I don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, I've never seen any of these movies, so we made a plan to hang out as attackers and watch some movies, like Tubi and Chill, Tubi and Bubble Bath.
There we go.
Tubi, Bubble Bath, and Toast, because Toast is done.
Oh, yeah. What do you like on your toast?
What do you got?
Well, I got some jam and butter.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Strawberry jam?
Well, Tiffany's allergic to strawberry jam, but yeah, we can have it.
Yeah, better keep that away then.
So I think all the attackers should take the recommendations of the podcast crew and go check out the movies they like on Tubi. That's what I plan on doing.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Looking through the list, though, of the Tubi originals, there is a lot of good stuff on there. We'll have to probably take a look at a couple of those.
We should probably, get dried off from this bath, start a nice fire, and lay on a bearskin rug and watch some movies.
Sounds like a plan to me, Brian.
Take care. Hey, if anybody wants to join our movie nights, let us know.
Till next time.
What the fuck is happening?
I haven't been here for the whole time of the show, obviously. I started back in 2016. And it's gone through a lot of evolution since then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think the most unexpected evolution of this show, since I have known about it and listened and then was on it, was finally getting some voicemails. And then the rapidity from which the voicemails went to Bill incoherently mumbling into his phone, which is apparently still in his pocket in a bathroom somewhere.
Yep.
To the voicemails having better production value than the fucking show.
Uh-huh.
And then the visual. Like, I've never been able to see a voicemail before, and I wish I couldn't see that one.
Wish you could unsee it.
Yes.
I know it. Oh my gosh. Yet, I can't wait for the next episode. Oh my gosh. What is happening? Well, for those of you who hasn't watched a Tubi original yet, and do by the time this is out, and want to leave your comments, your shout outs, or if you want to leave it in a form of a voicemail, Please don't do it in a tub. Be safe and dry. But leave us a voicemail.
Put your phone in an OtterBox. It's fine.
And you can just give us a call at 415-952-6857. That's 415-95-AOTKP. That's shout-outs at its peak. And that's shout-outs.
Tubi.
As always, thank you for the amazing intro there, Brian.
That wasn't Brian.
So amazing.
That was the Tubi
Oh, that
theme
was
song.
the Tubi
Yeah,
theme.
I
Yeah, that's
copied
right.
it.
Okay, grab your gong, your tutors, and your pom-poms, because these 5 luscious ladies are using their hot student bodies as bait, luring their victims into deadly situations in and out of the classroom. That's what the back of the box promised back in my days of hanging out at the local video stores. Hang on to your hats for this insane's picks. It's sexy teenage scumbusters declaring war at Cemetery High from 1988. Written and directed by Gorman Bacard, who also did Psychos in Love, Galactic Gigolo, Disconnected. Gorman directed a few films in the mid to late 80s, then kind of disappeared before returning to filmmaking in the in the 2000s, where he would do more like just straight comedies or dramas and thrillers and stuff like that. Cemetery High is a low-budget horror comedy that leans more into being a parody of exploitation revenge films. A group of high school girls with guns go on a killing spree. They are intent on ridding the world of scummy men.
Ew.
Even though the director himself has disowned this film, I think it is quite entertaining and funny. Sure, it can be troubling for some people for playing a rape revenge plot for laughs. However, they never explicitly show any of the rape scenes. As a matter of fact, we are spared from any of the graphic content thanks to the inclusion of the gore gong and the hooter honker. As explained at the beginning of the film, anytime there are scenes of violence, we are warned by cutting away to a shot of a gong being rung. And when hints of any sexual nature, we see a shot of a bicycle horn being honked. The plot is super weak as it just goes from kill scene to kill scene, cutting to moments of the local police trying to figure out what's going on. Now, there are dozens of fourth wall breaks in this film, including right at the very beginning where we get an opening of a narration of the film. The film's narrator then shows up on screen and is shot and killed by the girls. Another moment of fourth wall breaking is the girls argue who is going to be the next one to show off their breasts because the movie doesn't have enough nudity. Even on top of that, there's a scene at a video store where one of the girls finds a copy of Psycho in Love on the counter and wax poetic about how great the movie is, while the other girl standing next to her says, "It sucks." Cemetery High is currently on Tubi, but the quality is pretty poor. I don't remember the audio being as bad as it is in this particular version. Again, I haven't seen it since I saw it on VHS back in the day. But it definitely sounds like somebody had remixed the audio and screwed it up. The music and the Foley are much louder than the dialogue, and it is often overpowering what people are saying. So if you could find a better quality a copy of this film, I believe there is a DVD out there, but it's out of print, and I don't know who put it out, but I don't know if it's ever been put on Blu-ray. Scream Factory should get on that. But if you could find a better quality of it out there, I say check it out. Cemetery High from 1988. And that's it, folks. That's the show. Be sure to check us out on what?
No, it's good. I'm just Shout Factory. Yeah, they're gonna rush out to.
Okay, Vinegar Syndrome.
There
Syndrome.
you go,
Vinegar Syndrome did Psychos in Love, so I don't know why I didn't think of Vinegar Syndrome first. Yeah, so that's the show, everybody. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out everywhere on the internet. We're on Threads. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, X. We're on Facebook, where we have a page and a group page where you can leave comments that can be read on the show. So do it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you next time on Attack of the Killer Podcast.
Oh no, could this be the end of? Attack of the Killer Podcast.